Carl and Damon here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it's Let's Talk. We're going to be talking about nostalgia and gaming, how it affects us, how we view it in the wider picture, how it both pleases and frustrates us, where it applies the most to us in gaming and stuff like that. We're human. It's as simple as that. We're normal people, as it were, whatever you define as what normal is these days. So we suffer from nostalgia the same. Yep. I have a love-hate relationship with that element of life, in that sometimes I find it infuriating as people use it to do hyperbole, to overblow elements. I weirdly find it happens more when it comes to movies than anything else and things like that. And people are like, oh my God, that movie's a classic. It's like, no, it was shit. You just really like it. Yeah. That's the difference. But I also think that applies to gaming to a certain degree. I have a huge nostalgic value for games that I objectively recognise are bad games or poorly made games or games that aren't really liked by others. I do have that. But that also has been utilised by companies and by developers and stuff to kind of see what we're getting now, where we are getting a lot more remakes, re-releases, remastering of games because of nostalgic value more than anything else. Oh, people loved this back in the day, they love it again. It's worked incredibly well for Capcom in recent times, for example, with the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and I have no doubt that the remake of Resident Evil 4 will do extremely well too. Now, of course, we have EA getting in on the action with the remake of Dead Space, which seems likely to continue as well, and elements like that. Lots and lots of more remakes. Is this an area you're enjoying? Are you enjoying seeing these games that often aren't even that old and still hold up being remade and re-released for you to experience again?
Yeah.
Why?
Because a chance to play a game that I loved again.
But you can do that already. You can right now, if you want, go back and play Dead Space. No problem.
Right, I can, but I don't get the pleasure of seeing the achievement pop.
Yes, it comes down to that, doesn't it?
I bring up Mass Effect.
Yep.
When they released that package.
Yep, great one, Mass Effect.
It was amazing, and to see that there was like 3,100 gamer score, I was like, oh man, I'm playing that.
So there it is. That's what I think. You've nailed it. You're laughing because it's almost a bit nerdy and weird to sort of say.
Of course.
And I get that. But you've just nailed it. And that is a major part of what drives nostalgic value for me with these re-releases, remakes that we're getting in modern times. It's not just... So in the case of, say, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, I see that differently. That is a great... If that game had been released with no achievements... I'd have still played it. Yeah. I'd have still enjoyed it because it was a remake. That's the difference there. When it comes to remastering and re-releases, I need achievements to want to push me to play it. I want to see a game that I played when I was younger and thoroughly enjoyed here with reasons for me to play it again. I've played this game to death already. Give me reasons to play it. So it is a major draw.
Of course.
I use Dead Space as an example because I think Dead Space, in fact, it was only 6 months before... maybe a bit longer, the remake came out, that I had replayed Dead Space. And so I could record the entire gameplay and release it on the channel, the YouTube channel. Yep. So the fact that the remake then came out made me laugh because it felt a lot more familiar than it might have done had I not played it for years.
Yep.
But that's what also from that, I was like, well, as good as the remake is, and it really is an excellent game, it's not like the original doesn't hold up. It's not like the original is dated and feels, like a bad game now because of that. That's what I thought was really, really interesting. Yeah. And I kind of tricked you up there by saying, tried to trip you into it by saying, well, what's stopping you just playing Dead Space now? You just rightfully, you didn't dance around it. You highlighted the fact that, well, you've completed Dead Space. So getting to do it again. The same with the Mass Effects. But what I find interesting about that is, where do you draw the line? So I also have nostalgic value for Mass Effects, right? And I do have the Legendary Edition. In fact, I won achievement in the first game. I started it and then went, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And the reason being is because, of course, not only is it like a massive game in itself, Mass Effect 1, but you asked me to do all 3 of them again. And I'm like, shit, do I really want to do that right now? And it stopped me going, you know what, I'm not going to play it right now. Do you not find that as a problem as well?
I mean, the only thing I can say, obviously, with the Legendary Edition is that it's been watered down a lot.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I mean, like I was gonna say the annoying stuff having to do like 85% of each person's character.
Of course, that's annoying.
That's not gone.
Yeah.
So you ain't got to do that stuff. So that helps a lot. But I could play.
You wanted it to be exactly as it was, didn't you?
I was glad to see a bit better graphics.
Yeah, but sorry, I meant achievement-wise and gameplay-wise.
Oh, me personally, yes, because I enjoyed doing the 85% thing because obviously it meant you had to visit more and more worlds and like do more and more. So basically, like in the original one on the 360, you had to do like I think it's like 80 quests or 80 missions. This one you got to do 30. So they've cut out a lot of it. And for me, Mass Effect was all about, especially the first one. Well, first and second one was all about exploring the worlds, getting in a Mako, driving around.
But that brings us back to the argument. If you want to do that, go back and play Mass Effect. Then it's still there.
Which I can do, and probably maybe in 6 months' time or a year I would. But it's not a game that. But achievements are. It's crazy how in the 90s we didn't care about achievements.
Right? No, I hate this. We're going to get off topic here, but I hate this idea that achievements are ruined gaming and that's it and all that bullshit. What were we doing back in the day? What we were doing was trying to play a game to completion, collect everything in it, get the high score. That is what achievements are. When you completed a game back in the day, when you finished it and thought you'd done everything in it and collected everything, how you that was it. You moved on to the next game.
I still remember
that is still what we do now.
I still remember our little notebooks of like Command and Conquer with the passes written down.
Yeah,
Shenmue with the toy capsules written down.
Well, yeah, because you needed to kind of document it that way and stuff like that. But like, don't ever do that. I don't like the fact that there's a side and argument that achievements are somehow damaging gaming or ruining it. When to me,
I love it.
To me, it's actually the opposite. In most circumstances, it's made the game more enjoyable because I'm doing stuff I may not ever do, including often, for example, playing games through in the hardest difficulties and stuff like that.
I've actually got something to counter that in a way. I love achievements. I love it. But when a company, Squaresoft, for example, is it Squaresoft? Squaresoft Inc. doing their own Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay, so when a company adds achievements to the game, you can also spoil the game too. So I'm going to say, so Final Fantasy 9. I love the game. One of my favourite Final Fantasies. Love it even more achievements. But when you put in a dumbass achievement where you got to do 1,000 skip roping.
Right, no, this is where I disagree. I know what you're about to do here. You're going to complain and we're going let's not get too up top. We're talking about nostalgia, so we'll wrap this up. But you are talking about the fact that it's an achievement that you don't like. That is not the same. That's down to you. You don't have. That's where people are right. You're now going to run the game down and say it's no. You are about to slam the game in Squaresoft because they put an achievement that you don't like. But that doesn't change the game. You can do that game to 990G and not. And yeah, it's frustrating to have that not complete. And I completely get that. I'd be exactly the same. But that is the argument. What that does is it actually backs up people who say achievements are ruining games. Because you're about to go, and even if you're not going to complain about the game, you're about to rant about that achievement existing. As if it somehow makes the game worse.
I retract my statement.
Yeah,
because you are right that if I do so, I personally love achievements. I retract my entire statement.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I could see what you were doing doing that.
I don't agree with. I love achievements in games.
Yes. No, I completely get what you're saying as well. But that's the nostalgic value starts to draw from that as well more than anything else. Because that's when you start to look at something that we didn't have before. Mm-hmm. But when we think of nostalgia, obviously it's going to be age-based more than anything else. It's going to be how old you are, where your nostalgia starts. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to look at. At what point, when you think, just cast your mind back to in gaming throughout your life, what point, where is it, console-wise and era-wise, that your nostalgia really starts, that you think, yeah, that's when I have a lot of my best memories about gaming?
The SNES, I think.
I think so too. I was going to say the SNES / Mega Drive, aka the Genesis. Yep. That is where it starts for me. While we did have the consoles beforehand, I would say it starts there more than anything else. That's where I feel like it started to. So let's talk about some of the things that we're nostalgic about on that, and maybe not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we are doing that thing, or we're getting caught up into it, and unnecessarily so. So I'm going to start with one that we're super nostalgic about, but I replayed recently just for fun because it was available on the emulator of Nintendo Switch. But we are super nostalgic about for no reason, and it's a game called Super Tennis on the Super Nintendo. A game that was nostalgic purely because we used to play doubles and couldn't be a certain team in that, a certain pairing in that. That's a good example of nostalgia there, I think, for us. That would probably not really apply to anyone else.
No, definitely not.
Or very few people anyway. The fact that we can, without even having to prompt you, Damon, what were their names?
Mark and Steve.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how ingrained that is.
Yep.
Whereas, and I view that level of nostalgia different to nostalgia for Sonic.
Of course.
Because I would say Sonic the Hedgehog, having replayed it over the years in so many different formats, I can't remember the nostalgia I would have felt for it. I don't put Sonic on now and go, oh, this is like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, it's Sonic. It's a great game. See what I mean? Like, that's the difference. Whereas Super Tennis, I put it on and I was like, oh, this will be fun. Let me try this out and start to play it. I played it for 10 minutes and just went, fuck this.
Yeah, of course.
That I thought was fascinating. Fascinating.
Yep. I mean, see, for me, I view nostalgia like for like I could be just driving around work, for example, and then I just at random get a piece of music in my head. I go, oh my god, that's from a game I played 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? I'm so desperate to play it again.
Yeah, so it does that too. It makes you go, I really want to play it again. I want to experience it again.
And that obviously doesn't mean it's going to be fantastic.
No, of course, and often it isn't.
Yeah, no, of course not. You know, when you go back to like the PS1 days.
Right, well, let's do that then, right now. So, obviously in the last 2 years, you've kind of got back into gaming, and that's where you kind of think. So, you're going back and playing games that you played in Xbox 360 that are released, you never completed and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, you're the perfect guinea pig, really, for nostalgia at the moment. So, let's point at, and this is what I really want to analyse and look at, is what recently can you think of that you've played based off a nostalgic memory or nostalgic feelings and found that, oh my god, this is not worth it. This has not lived up. This is not as good as I remember it, and I've not enjoyed this.
Shenmue 2.
Shenmue 2. Good God, that's a good one.
Shenmue 2.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about this. I think I completed about a week ago, and god damn it, it was so frustrating. You know, I don't remember being that frustrating when I played it on the Dreamcast, and I was getting so annoyed. Just like the stupid quick time events.
Yep.
You know, or walking across the beams and falling off and then having to do the whole thing again. I found myself getting across the beam, saving it. If I fell off, fucking reloading it.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Or the whole money thing too. It was so difficult to get money. The stupid little drop the little ball down to get in an extra circle. I found myself winning big, saving it if I lost, reloading my game. And it just got so repetitive that in the end, when I finally completed it again, I got it 1,000 out of 1,000, I was so relieved.
Really?
And I almost messed it up too, because there's a secret achievement right at the very end of the game when you meet that Shen Yua, whatever it is. She asks you about going to a secret flower bed.
Yep.
If you say yes, you get the achievement. You say no, you don't get the achievement. So if you haven't saved it, you've got to do all that again.
Which is really annoying.
I'm so glad that I googled it beforehand.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to go even more controversial, and I'm going to say Shenmue 1. And what I mean by that is this. So when it got re-released on the Xbox, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to play this. And I remember going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my time. I'm going to really, really take my time. I'm going to explore, and I'm going to look around in every corner and see what things that I've never experienced in Shenmue before is. And there isn't anything.
Nothing.
And that was a real eye opener for me, where I was like, in my head, Shenmue, my nostalgia had made Shenmue this massive, exciting, explorative world where every day new things are going on.
Yep.
And then you realise actually none of that is happening.
That's the thing.
Nothing is happening.
I kind of just want to appreciate to the re-release on the Xbox, whoever did it, the whole option of, oh shit, I've got to wait 5 hours to 7 o'clock. You can actually press the button wait and it skips straight to it.
Yeah.
Where the Dreamcast, we had to physically wait.
And there's just nothing to do.
You know, I mean, we used to obviously play arcade games and buy capsules.
Yeah.
Once the money's gone, That's it. You're screwed.
But again, there's only so much of that you can do. There's only so many times I want to play fricking Hang On. There's only so many times I want to do that. Space Harrier and stuff like that. So that was a real eye-opener for me. That experience of being like, oh. And it almost made me sad. Like, that's an interesting thing about nostalgia is I kind of went, I wish I'd never... Because now when I think of Shenmue, that's a kind of dominant thought of mine where I'm like, God, this isn't as great as it was.
Of course, and I mean, have you played 3?
No, of course not.
Yeah, 3 is obviously it's been highly critical. It's very disappointing. And if there is a 4th, I'll be very surprised if there is, and if there is, it'll be the last one.
That's the thing about nostalgia as well. We eventually, sometimes it does lead to a finish, a new game, and they try to capture what made the original in a second particularly special, and it turns out that what made them special was they were special at the time. They were the big fish in a small pond, but now you're just a small fish in this giant pond, and games have done so much, and if you can't match that, you're not going to stand out. It makes complete sense. Other ones, right? And kind of let's now go and stick to specifically the eras, right, that we probably got the most memories for. And I'm talking about Saturn, PlayStation, Nintendo 64. That little section, that massive section of years, decade, where particularly we have nostalgic values for games that people might think are rubbish, but also things that you would later go back to. So I'm going to jump on 2, if you don't mind first.
Yeah, I've got 1 too.
Because I have huge nostalgic value, right, for a Disney game, which still makes me laugh. And I went back and actually played in the last few years on my PC on an emulator, and I still enjoyed it because and what I thought was interesting was the nostalgic value for that game was I remember this. It wasn't very good, but I always really liked it.
Can I guess it before?
Yeah, I will allow you to. But let me finish what I'm saying. I still like I said all those things. It wasn't a good game. It didn't play well. It could be annoyingly frustrating, and it wasn't considered to be a great game. But I went into it with knowing that. I remember going. That's how I always felt. So when I played it again, I was like, hey, this is still pretty good. Like, for me, like, I didn't come away going, oh my God, it's got such problems.
Yep.
Except for one level where I thought it was worse than I remembered. What's the game?
I'm going to say Aladdin.
No.
No? Okay.
Aladdin holds up like fuck.
Okay, so
Aladdin holds up like fuck.
Okay, yep.
It's a Bug's Life.
Oh, okay.
It's a Bug's Life. The level I'm talking about that didn't hold up, or at least didn't hold up, was...
The Hopper chase? Being chased by Hopper?
Where she's holding it, as holding it.
You hit a little rock and you
that's what I've forgotten. That was terrible. But that's where nostalgia worked in my favour.
Yeah.
The opposite side, a game that I had was like, it's been at least a decade since I played this, and this could be fun to play and it could be interesting, and it's good. I always remember it being good, and that should be it. But not only did I hate playing it, the controls were a nightmare. Siphon Filter, and trying to shoot in that was one of the most eye-gouging experiences I had. Yeah. I was so let down when my nostalgia betrayed me, basically.
I remember that game, yes.
Yeah, Siphon Filters. That's 2 I come to immediately off the top of my head. What about you?
I think so. Obviously, it'll be from the.
We're sticking in the PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Saturn era. Going to Saturn, a game that I'd argue there's more nostalgic memories of things that were good on the Saturn that weren't. Yeah, and I go to replaying Clockwork Knight and being like, I remember this being a lot better, and it really not. But on the opposite side of that, not having much nostalgic value for Nights, except for Christmas Night, having more, because that came free in a magazine, but then playing Nights in modern times and being like, this is fucking great. Yeah. That kind of thing.
I know one which I was, again, had a thing for, I don't know why, but it's the Horde.
Horde. Yeah, I mean, you've got a massive nostalgic value for the Horde.
Of course, and I remember at one point, it was like, 10 years ago, I was so desperate to play that game.
Yep.
That I even bought I bought a Saturn, I bought the game, and it didn't work because I must have bought the wrong version. But then I played it about 3 or 4 years ago on an emulator, the Horde.
Yep.
And it was shit.
It didn't hold up.
No,
fascinating.
I loved it. I loved all the cinematics. The cinematics were always good, even back then. I still enjoyed them. But the game was just so basic. It literally there was nothing to do.
That is amazing for you to admit that. That's what I wanted to explore here, is this discovery that nostalgia works on both ways. Yeah. Did you ever play Nightmare Creatures on the PlayStation?
That name sounds familiar.
So Nightmare Creatures is a game that I was obsessed in the last couple of years of replaying. And I was like, right, you're going to sit down, you're going to put it on an emulator, and you're going to play and you're going to record it. And you're going to enjoy it because you have these memories for it and you always love the kind of scary monster stuff and the fantasy-based things. And it was a combat sort of slashing game. That would be a lot of fun. And then I played it. And I hated every minute of it. I played the first level and went, you know what? I ain't doing this. I am not doing this. That there is a fantastic example of just where, again, the nostalgia did not fit well for me.
But then there's also many games where it has done.
It has done.
Yeah.
Spyro the Dragon.
Yep, Spyro.
I'd say, and in fact, Spyro Trilogy. 1, 2, and Year of the Dragon. 100%. In fact, as well, the remakes of those were, you were saying before we started recording, one of the things you wanted to explain what you loved about the remakes.
Yeah, well, I mean, for starters, graphically, it's obviously beautiful and fantastic, you know, but it's the exact same game.
Yeah.
There's been no difference at all. The fact you literally, I know where everything is, and it's literally in the same spot.
You love that. Yeah. And that's a fascinating thing about nostalgia as well, is you kind of want something different. You're happy to have different, but you don't want to change it too much.
Yes.
And that brings me to literally one that has held up as well with Shadow Man. Shadow Man has always held up. It's always been enjoyable, whatever. In fact, it was only about 3 or 4 years ago that I first replayed it, recording my entire playthrough on PC. That would be when I'd play that version of it. Now, of course, it's got a remastering on the Xbox with new things added, new bosses, new areas, and a whole remake of certain elements as well. The nostalgia love I have for that game still holds up because obviously I played it on the PC later on and it still was as good. But having this, where again, they haven't changed anything in the main game. What they have done is tried to make things better and easier and smarter. And that is a level of brilliance. Nintendo, they're a good example of nostalgia being both good and bad, I find, because obviously how you feel about certain games.
I've got one.
Of the Nintendo 64, the GameCube era, but also then, because they're now obviously releasing a lot of these games and emulators and things like that. And then some of the sequels and remakes on Switch. What do you go to on those?
So I'm going to get to the GameCube.
Yep.
So this game, I loved it when I was younger. Was so desperate to play it for literally recently that I even started watching some kid play it on YouTube.
Yep.
And then I played it probably about a month ago, and I was like, why was I so excited?
Go on.
Doshin the Giant.
Oh, one of the most disappointing GameCube games.
I was so desperate to play it again. And I watched some 12-year-old filming themselves playing it online.
Yep.
And I thought, Joe, I want to play this game.
Yep.
I've got a GameCube anyway, but I paid like £25 for fucking eBay. And I just don't. I don't get it. I did not understand the hype of that game or why I loved it as a kid.
It is pure nostalgia in that.
Yeah.
I remember Doshin the Giant. I remember us being obsessed with real-time strategy and believing that this was a strategy game.
Yeah.
And of course, that was not what it is. I remember heavily more. My nostalgia for that game is that. My nostalgia for Doshin the Giant is the disappointment of that game. I'm going to do the most controversial one here, right? Probably the most controversial. You know what game I don't think holds up based off nostalgia? Super Mario 64. Now, I'm basing this off one thing, folks, and I think you'll agree with me on this, right? So Super Mario 64 is one of the best games ever made, and certainly one of the best Mario games ever made. No question. But my personal favourite is Super Mario Odyssey, which is the one that was released on Switch. What a bloody Mario game that is. I adore it. I, like many others, got caught up in Nintendo. Well, not got caught up because we could see what they were doing, but Nintendo's whole, we're re-releasing all 3 games in one package and it's going to be for limited time and all that nonsense.
Yep.
But I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll buy it. Absolutely. I wanted it. It had Super Mario Sunshine, it had Super Mario 64, but also Super Mario Galaxy was a Mario game I'd never played. So that was like, this is a great chance for me to do that. Now, you think, right, thinking of that package, and me writing a review for the site, but what do you think that, that's a 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah, I would
64... Say. Sunshine and Galaxy, that's a 10 out of 10 game. I only give it 7. You know why? It's because they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing with it. It was literally just the same. It was emulated games. Emulated games.
Okay.
And there's its problem. I went, oh, well, that's no problem. I still just want to play them again. I'm going to do Super Mario 64 Star. And at first I was like, hey, great. And then I started to find myself getting really frustrated with a lot of the elements of it. And then I realised why. Mario games were better. They'd got better. Odyssey had made it better. Everything was better. And now I found myself dying non-stop in 64 and just getting annoyed with it. I'm having to do slides and falling off the edge and being like, it's because of the stupid camera.
Yeah.
They didn't fix... The camera didn't do anything. It's the same game where Nostalgia was telling me it was one of the best games ever made. And I was just getting annoyed by it. That's it. That's a major one.
I can understand that, yeah. I mean, as I said, there's one game which again I played recently too, which has held up, and that was Pokemon Snap. I've not played the newer one. I know you have, and I'm going.
Right, I'm going to stop you right there.
Oh, okay.
Right, I'm going to stop right there. I'm stopping you because this is where I understand to a degree. I also have a nostalgic value for Pokemon Snap, but I think this is where a sequel or a long-awaited follow-up does improve on the original so much that going and playing the original now, it looks absurd that was ever as limited as it could be. Don't get me wrong, although I do love Pokemon Snap too, I do think, they still missed a trick by not allowing you to move around and stuff like that. It's still on rails and elements like that. But my God, it was such an improvement, such a lovely return, such a relaxing and improved experience that the idea or thought of going back to Pokemon Snap's basicness
Yeah, of course.
had very little appeal to me. That's kind of where that one lies for me more than anything else. Beyond that, I have no nostalgic interest or excitement for Pokemon games in general. Do you? Like, do you feel nostalgic towards red, yellow, blue, green, all that nonsense?
I've got them all on my Game Boy. So Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've got them all there, and they were also on the emulator, which you gave me. So I played them all on that.
Yep.
And enjoyable, but they're obviously very basic.
Of course.
But I still don't mind playing them, and I get some enjoyment out of the music, but. It's that one for me is 50-50 to be fair, because I still have the urges to play them every now and then, but then
you don't want to put the investment in.
Yeah.
So it's not as strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that kind of area, then I want to talk about as well how nostalgia drives you to potentially want to play something when it's coming out. So use Resident Evil 4 as an example. Nostalgia is certainly going to drive the purchase of that. But another really good example. Take Resident Evil 4, for example. Nostalgia is certainly going to drive a purchase of that. But another one that's kind of just based on nostalgia more than anything else is I'm really looking forward to Advance Wars 1 and 2's remake. That's coming out in April on the Switch.
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious.
Oh my God, man.
Is it April or May, folks? It's April or May. I can't remember the date. I know they announced it. It obviously been announced last year, but then it got delayed. It was supposed to be out in December. It got delayed. Then it went very quiet. Everyone was like, oh, they've cancelled it. But this week, as the time of recording, they announced on direct it was coming out in April or May. It's called Advance Wars 1 and 2 Boot Camp. Is a remake of Advance Wars, and that's a nostalgic thing for me. Playing Advance Wars on a specific console, the SP, the best handheld console ever made.
Yep.
I say that purely because the SP had backlight. That was the first one to have a backlight, so you could play it at night. Love the SP, Advance Wars. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to that because I've played it on the SP. I've played it on the emulator too, and I still love that game.
Got to get yourself a Switch. Have you got a Switch?
Kieran has, so
it'll be on that.
Well,
I'll just throw it in as well then, if you're not already aware, but they also sneak drop or just dropped a remake, remastered game on it this week. Metroid Prime is now on it as well. £30, which I thought was a little overpriced for remastering. But when it turns up on sale, I'm like, yep, I'll give that a go. Which is odd, really, because that's the only Metroid game that I have any sort of nostalgia for. Never really played a lot of Metroids back in the day.
No.
What else kind of right, based on nostalgia then, let's throw into this area. What games do you want to see re-released or remade or remastered? What games would you like, based off your nostalgic feelings more than anything else? Okay, let's just throw out the obvious one first, get out of the way so we aren't going to hear you bored fucking senseless with it. Pop us to the beginning, yes.
Yeah, I would
Wait,
like that.
remake, remastering or re-release? Which one do you want?
Anyone. I couldn't care.
Whitney, you have to choose. If you could choose any three, what would you want?
I would love a complete clean-up, a complete remastering.
Remastering, yeah, okay. You still want it to be the same game,
Yes.
but just run better, look better, feel better.
But basically, Spyro the Dragon remaster by Populous. I would love that.
But Spyro the Dragon's a remake.
Okay, so the exact...
Remastering is Shadow Man, where it's exactly the same game. They've added little touches here and there, but they haven't they haven't done anything changed. They haven't it's sharper graphics. It's sharper, it's the same looking game.
Yeah, literally, but yeah, I want the exact same game, but with much better graphics.
Yeah, okay. I figured that would be what you would want. Okay, let me have a little think. I'm thinking back to the early days. Okay, I want a remastered Broken Sword collection. I want 1, 2, 3, 4, and then obviously, although it's fairly new, put 5 in them. And I realise remastering of that isn't too difficult in regards to things, but the remastering I think would apply for 3 and 4 mainly, which are the 3D ones. Rather than the 2D ones. Obviously, you can get HD remasters of the original 2 on mobile now as well, with new bits added into some. It kind of already have them, and then obviously just because I want more people to play Broken Sword 5, because then I might get more Broken Sword games. That would be lovely for me. Those particular things. I would also throw in, if I'm doing that, can we also please do a remastering? Oh fuck it, I'll take a re-release of the trilogy of Discworld games. 1, 2, and Noir. Please. Those will be what I come to immediately.
Yeah.
Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Remake.
Remake, yeah.
Do it. That's what I'd want of
definitely.
those.
Yep.
That's my nostalgia for those. I would like to see Twin Snakes. Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
Yep.
That be the version that gets a remastering. Not a remake, a remastering. You can remake Metal Gear Solid if you want. But a remastering of Twin Snakes, I think Twin Snakes is is very underrated.
Yep.
It deserves more love for being a damn good, weirdly a remake of Metal Gear Solid. So yeah, let's just have that as a remastering.
I would like a remastering of Bruce Willis's Armageddon.
Wow.
I'm joking. No. I was a piss take. No, I mean,
good game though. You just brought up a good nostalgic memory.
Yeah, but no, I would like something like Tombi. I think Tombi with better graphics would be quality. I think.
I'm going to disagree. Reason being,
I think it still holds up though.
That's it. That's why.
It does hold up, yeah.
I think the game is so basic in how it looks and how it feels that there's not much you could do with it. I think it still holds up. In fact, again, for the YouTube channel, a year ago, I went through that game, recorded me completing every single task in it. So yeah, including discovering, in fact, there's one of that that you can actually fail completely just by not doing a certain thing, and then never be able to do it, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think it holds up too well to really do that. But it's a great one because I've got great, and that's actually a good version, a good example of good nostalgia. As when I replayed it, I still thought it was excellent. I still thought it was excellent. Skies of Arcadia remake.
Yeah.
Or our push remaster it.
Yeah, remaster. Yeah.
But you have to do Skies of Arcadia Legends,
yeah.
the one that was released on the GameCube.
Yep.
That's what I want. Sticking with remakes based off my nostalgic love, Bully.
But yeah.
Do it. Remake it bigger, bolder, better. Have a bit of that, please.
Yep.
If failing that, let's just get a freaking sequel.
Yep.
But Bully's one I come to as well.
Did you ever play a game called Fires of Emblem?
Oh no, but I know of Fires of Emblem.
Such an expensive game. Even now, it's like 70 quid. Yeah, it's like even now on eBay, it's like 70 odd quid.
Oh really?
Yeah,
There's been a few of them as well.
Yeah.
There's been a few of them. Sticking right. What about Sega Saturn? Pick of a Sega Saturn game that wasn't released on other things potentially that you would be like, yeah, you know what? My nostalgia's high for that. I'll have a bit of that.
You know, the Saturn's hard because
there weren't that many good games.
No, I mean I'm thinking like the ones that we played as kids, like Gun Griffin. Was it Gun Griffin?
Yeah, but I don't remember it well enough to really give a shit. Do you know what I mean?
Panzer Saga 3, is it? Or 4?
Right. Well, so they've obviously we've had a remake of Panzer Dragoon on the Switch. The problem with that to me was I didn't have much nostalgic value for it.
Yeah.
I played it, found it to be all right. They're apparently going to do Panzer Dragoon Saga 2. Panzer Dragoon 2. That's intrigued me. Let's do that because I always remember that being a better game.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I'm just going, all right, are we going to continue this? Are we doing all the Panzer games?
Yeah.
Are you going to be brave enough to do Saga?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of nostalgic value for that. And I am intrigued, right? Because these remakes, they're more like remasterings more than anything else. I don't think Saga will hold up. I don't think it'll hold up by today's standards of kind of explorative RPG worlds.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it will at all.
And I don't think we'll have. I mean,
I don't think we'll have it either. I think 1 and 2 is easy because
Yeah.
they're on the rails. But Saga being what it is, I don't think we will either.
Guardian
But
Heroes.
that obviously has had a few
It
re-releases.
has, yeah.
I remember it being more fun than it
Yeah.
actually was when I replayed it, but I still enjoyed it. Weirdly enough, I thought the House of the Dead remake recently was a really strong remake that I thoroughly enjoyed. But then I was in nostalgic values for that, for the arcade,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Our Sega Saturn was limited, man. When we think about it, we only had like 10 games. I think like, maybe Time Cop, was it Time Cop? Or Virtual Cop.
Well, yeah, but again, I think arcades of them, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, Sega Rally and stuff like that. We've had
Yeah.
many sequels of those games, so I don't know how much I'd give a shit about. They were like, to me, oh yeah, we're gonna remake the first Sega Rally. I'm like, you're gonna put more than 4 levels
know.
in, you know?
You can still play it now in the arcades.
Exactly. Sega. Well, if you could find a bloody
Well, yeah,
arcade
well,
in the
yeah,
UK,
exactly,
those things are dead in the water. But yeah, so kind of get to your Sega Saturn is hard. What about the Dreamcast then? Thinking to these sort of consoles that maybe don't have too much going on game wise.
Joe, there's a you might know the name of it, but it was a game I used to always like, enjoy playing. It was like a open world game. Your character was a guy with blue hair and he had a red cape, and he's go around. It's called Time Capsules or Time. Oh man, what's it called?
But no, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about, but you have just prompted it. A remake or remastering of Time Splitters 2. Which would you prefer? Because I think I might just want a remastering.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want too much to be changed in Time Splitters 2. It's such a great game. Oh, I don't know what game. I don't know what game you're talking about. I don't know. I can't think of blue hair, red cape.
Yeah.
Blue hair, red cape, and on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, Dreamcast. Yeah, you used to go around and you capture enemies and then release them from like a capsule, time capsules.
I think I vaguely remember what you're saying, but I don't. I think I vaguely remember it. Let us know in the comments if you know what Damon is talking about. Specific game there.
I'll Google it later on, and then I'll probably message it later on what it is. But
what about Commandos?
do you know what? Commanders was always a game which I was obsessed with playing. I wanted to play it, and I think I played number 3 in the end. It just wasn't really that enjoyable.
I was going to say, because they obviously remastered the original games that are actually available on Xbox, but I always wondered if that. So you would also. What about Warhammer Dark Omen? What would you want that to be? Because this is a favourite of his as well.
Yeah, I would be happy with just better graphics. The same game with better graphics. But if they wanted to like remake or remaster, whatever, I'll take either one.
Or just release things like the remastered Command & Conquer games
yeah.
on consoles, please. That would be very nice.
You got GoldenEye, so you never know.
Yeah,
Even though
but
it's
do you
the exact
think?
same.
Well, let's stick with the nostalgia theme, and considering GoldenEye is one of the more most nostalgic games we have for memory. Did you enjoy? Have you enjoyed this re-release, this remastering, as much as you thought you would?
I think probably more. But the only disappointing thing for me is that when I heard about the remaster, I thought, oh, excellent, GoldenEye with better graphics. But for me, is it the exact same thing?
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So
just sharper, just better graphics.
Yeah, literally. I would have loved to see like proper standard
remake.
Remake. Yeah,
you wanted a remake,
but don't get me wrong, I still absolutely loved it. Literally, I completed that game in 14 hours. Literally, on my fingers, literally everything done, and I just, loved it. Played a game we used to play, Proximity Mines, with my son. We done that. He did not understand what the hell was going on.
Of course.
But I was laughing as he walked into a room and there's a bomb under the sink and he dies. He's like, "Where was that?" He's like, "You got to look."
Very good, very, very good. I asked that because I've only played the first level in GoldenEye and I was like, maybe it'll catch me more as I play on and kind of get into it. But I was playing several things at once, Dead Space, Townsman, so I was jumping between games and didn't really focus too heavily on it. What about a more modern game that you've got nostalgia for? Still like in the sense that it feels like a comfort blanket to go back and play it. I mean, you kind of, I suppose you touched upon Mass Effect a little bit. It's harder when it comes to like Xbox 360 in that period, doesn't it? Isn't it? Because ultimately, nostalgia for a lot of people is related to your childhood more than anything else.
Of course.
So you end up looking back and go, well, okay, that's the stuff I enjoyed as a child. That's what made me, relax and feel cool and all that kind of thing.
I mean, if we're talking about like modern, I don't know, because it's hard, I mean, Viva Pinata was always
very good.
Yeah.
There's a game that needs a fucking... Don't want a remastering or remake.
No.
Do you know what I want? Sequel.
It's a sequel, yeah.
A bigger, bolder and better sequel. Absolutely, yeah. Viva Pinata, that's a great
and
example.
Just please, just give us the option to build as big as we want. Don't limit it.
There has to be some limitations, but it can be bigger limitations.
Yes, it's like bloody like Harvest Moon, for example. Don't tell me you're going to give me a farm game and I'm going to have 3 animals. I want a farm game where I can have a massive farm with 50 animals in it. That's what I want. Like farm. I don't know. Is it Farmville? I think the game called something. I don't know.
No, but I know what you mean. You want freedom.
Yeah,
you want the freedom to do what you want. I mean, there's always got to be some limitations.
Of course.
But yeah, basically, kind of like Trouble in Paradise, but bigger, and not having to fucking go through worlds, but all being in the same area is ideal. I don't mind some limitations because obviously, graphical capability and all that. But Viva Pinata is definitely up there for me as well.
Within reason, I'm playing like Fallout Shelter, and I can only have you're only allowed to have 100 people. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Come on, man. At least give me 150 or 200.
The limitations of games, eh?
I know, ridiculous. But
game I felt quite recently. It's quite funny. I had Far Cry 3 remake, remastering, re-release, whatever you want to call that. It's not a remake actually. It's more of a remastering, re-release. I had Far Cry 3 on my in my game catalog for ages. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, let's. I decided, I'm gonna play it now. I'm gonna start it, and I know I can get through it fairly quickly. They removed all the multiplayer achievement, the co-op achievements, and everything, so it was a lot more concise, a little bit easier to do, a lot less time consuming. And playing it, starting it off fast, all that, I was like, yeah, this is cool. It's cool to be back. By the time I got halfway through that game, I was fucking done. I was like, I shouldn't have done this. I regretted starting it.
Really?
I pushed myself to finish it, but I properly regretted it and was like, there you go. And I realised that's kind of a prompt for this video where it's like, that's not... Nostalgia in modern days harder because you're looking at games that may be 10 years old and remember them fondly because you enjoyed playing them at the time, but it might be too soon to go back to.
Yeah, so
what we've always got to go back to, your Nintendo 64s, your Mega Drives, Master Systems, stuff like that.
So obviously, I've got a lot of retro computers.
Of course,
I've got literally probably every genre. I've got all the best games on my shelf, and obviously I look at those games. I think I'm going to search it up on Microsoft Store.
Yeah,
if I can find it. And one of the ones I found the other day is like I couldn't believe they remastered was Constructor.
Yeah,
couldn't believe it. And I watched a video of it. Thought this looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not played it yet because I don't want to pay 20 quid for it because it's too much to pay for that. I think, but it's a game that I think that one of these days I will play it because I used to play that game a lot and I enjoy that game.
Yeah, you've got a lot of love for that game as well, which was really weird because I remember finding that quite basic.
Basic, and it was quite difficult. I think it was.
It was difficult as well. It's odd. I mean, we kind of started as I thought, man, maybe we'll go 10 or 15 minutes talking about nostalgia, but ultimately it kind of does rule a major part of our gaming experience. Yeah. Even now, I look at my home screen of my Xbox and the current games played, the current games that kind of lined up that I've been playing recently is Shadow Man, Dead Space Remake, Townsman, GoldenEye, and Power Wash Simulator, although that's my wife.
Three of them are from our childhood.
No, admittedly, it's purely coincidental in the sense that GoldenEye and Dead Space Remake pretty much came at the same time. And Shadow Man, while remastering came out last year, I just discovered that, of course, they added new achievements and a new difficulty setting, and I'm currently doing that. But I went through it, and in fact, I know on my game catalogue, for example, there are certain games that I downloaded to plan and play and have started and then just got bored. I have the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Yep. I have the Prototype re-releases. And I started Prototype late last year and started to play it and got bored senseless. And was like, oh, for fuck's sake. You know, that's what nostalgia does.
Yep.
So while I am critical of nostalgia in regards to movies and TV shows, now people refer to things as classics when they're just bad movies, but you like them.
Yeah.
You know, like a term I hate is so bad it's good. I hate that term because it's so rare to find something that actually applies that. What it means is you like it. It's still terrible, but you like it.
Yes.
That's what I think more people should say. But when it comes to gaming, I get blinded by it too.
Yep.
I get blinded by it heavily, and it applies to all aspects. It's not just it's not just like movies and games. Think about nostalgia in something like wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan, what are you nostalgic for? Chances are, bet it's the Attitude Era, as it is in many cases. I think of wrestling and nostalgia. I think of late 90s WCW.
Yeah.
That was my era, elements like that. What else do you get nostalgic over? Music, of course. Hearing tunes that you haven't heard in a while, you get familiar with. My entry point into heavy metal, new metal, or what? Here's Linkin Park. Although I'm not a fan of it, particularly, I wasn't even that day, it's going to create some nostalgic feelings for me.
Yeah, of
a
course.
book does that to me. A book I haven't read in a while. I get nostalgic all the time over the Discworld series. That is obviously, a book series I adore.
Funny you just said that. Literally, I've got Audible.
Yep.
And literally, I'm in the process of listening to BioShock, the book.
Yep.
The John Sheldon.
So it's made you nostalgic for it again.
I literally finished completing BioShock 1 about 2 or 3 months ago. But listening to that book, I'm like, I want to go play that game again because the book is so on point.
Yeah, like you're in the world again.
Of
you
course.
feel in the world again.
And then there's also one game which I own on a 360 actual disc, and I've been tempted to download it, but I'm in two minds because I'm a bit scared. I might be disappointed. It's Darksiders. So the first one, and the second one, Darksiders, where you control war.
Yeah.
I want to play it again, but I'm like, is this going to destroy my memory of this game?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can't really say because I did actually complete and replay Darksiders, the re-release, but we're talking 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was never the biggest fan of it. I thought it was a good game that utilised things like Legend of Zelda, like dungeon crawling and elements like that. I thought it was a good game, but I don't really remember too much about it. You actually tying into that. Big fan of Metro 2033. Re-release came around, struggled to get into it. I struggled to get into it. It's fascinating, isn't it? How it drives you to do and how it trips you up. It really, really does. But there you go. That's our feelings on nostalgia in gaming. You got any thoughts on your own? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?